It's another edition of your program Bushfalla on Travel TV channel. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for being with us. And without wasting much of your time, today we are going direct to the topic of discussion because we know it's a very crucial thing that affects mostly the youthful population. Today we are talking about international scholarships. You might be looking for one, you might have had one, but today in the studio we have an experienced medical doctor who has also benefited from 2 scholarships out of Cameroon, and he will be giving us a lot of tips when it comes to his personal experience. Thank you very much for staying with us. We'll be right back. It's your program Bushfalla, and I'm your host, Larinette Apaji Abongwa. We are 2 in the studio, myself and Dr. Elvis Demfak. Hello, doctor.
Hi, Larinette.
I'm so pleased to have you in the studio with me today, and I'm tempted to start first with a consultation.
Well, feel free. That's why we are here.
Honestly, I can have a medical doctor and I want to go around the clock without talking about a little bit of things that might be of help to me and to many other persons. Doctor, I'm a journalist, and most often we are under a lot of pressure. How do we manage stress at the workplace?
You can learn to like what you do, and when you do it wholeheartedly, you feel less stressed.
Thank you very much, doctor, for that list. Doctor, we learned that you have traveled out of the country for 2 different scholarships, details of which you best know more. Tell us.
Well, maybe I'll start with a short introduction of myself. I did my medical studies in Cameroon, precisely in Yaoundé, after which I was working in Hôpital Général, as they call it in general.
In Yaoundé?
Then, no, Douala General Hospital.
Okay.
Then I had a scholarship to do a master's in the University of London, after which I came back home, continued working in Hôpital Général, and I had a second scholarship to do a PhD in France, after which I came back home. As you can see that I'm home now.
Why did you go in for a scholarship?
Well, the first thing is, I'm one of those who believes that each and every person has to define their career path. And when you know what you want, you set the objectives and then you work towards that. So one of the things is I've always strived to give the best of my ability. And one of the ways to give the best of what I can do is to make sure I study, I get one of the best state of the art of the training on country.
Doctor, I don't feel very satisfied with the tips that you're giving. I really want us to dive deep into it. But before we get to that point, I would like us to look at this documentary of this young man. It's a short documentary that's been produced by Travel TV channel.
After my Asian, I applied with a few banks in Cameroon, but none even called me off for an interview. So I made up my mind I was going to travel, and I started visiting cyber cafes to search up on the internet, try to see what I could create for myself in order to see whether I would travel. When I started doing my research, I had a few countries in mind. I could only try a few countries. Those countries that the official languages were English, and I had in mind England, Canada, Australia, and America. When I started, I set out some few objectives, which were that I needed to be in London, because to me London was the most vibrant city in England, and it had so many schools and so many opportunities. So I said I would limit my search only to schools around London, and I went online. I Google search on schools based on London, business schools in London, until I was able to find one called London School of Commerce. From London School of Commerce, I applied. And luckily enough for me, we had somebody there who was acting as a representative for West Africa, and he was a Cameroonian, by then Mr. Kembi Flavian. So he was there to assist me, guide me through on how to put in my application. So when I did, I was admitted, and I was one of the lucky few to get a scholarship based on my past results from the National Polytechnic. Back then it was called National Polytechnic Bamboo, but now it's the National Polytechnic University Institute. With the application process, I just had to fill in some forms, certify my A levels, O levels, making sure I had English language and my HND. Not only the government recognized transcript, which had just about 10 courses, but the whole transcripts, especially the internal transcripts, were very, very important because they contain all the courses that I had done in Polytech all throughout my studies. I paid my fees before traveling, and the issue was that I had somebody there in UK. I had a friend there, so I could actually send him to go and verify what I was actually doing, to go on campus and check with the institution what is happening with my application. So I had that was the extra advantage I had. I had somebody there. When I finally got to the UK to study, okay, let me first talk about when I got to the embassy, getting the visa first. Getting the visa with the part scholarship wasn't easy. The interview went on smoothly, but I had a few hitches that the immigration officer told me that I didn't show enough proof that I was going to come back to Cameroon after my studies, which I had to now. So based on that, the British government have decided to turn down my visa, and they gave me the right to appeal. So I actually went back and I did a few documents, and I came back and I submitted, and I was called up to come and collect my visa. So after collecting, I now had to travel down to UK. I landed at Heathrow Airport on the 29th of May 2007. The school had somebody in place at the airport to pick me up. They took me to my accommodation, which I paid. My accommodation was about, in CFA, about 250,000, which I paid per month. It was just it's a 3-bedroom flat with a single room inside, which I had other neighbors, a guy from Nigeria and a guy from Cote d'Ivoire living in the two, one in the master's room and another guy in the medium size room. I had just a single room for 250.
If you are just joining us, it's the program Bush Fola on Travel TV channel, and I'm still with Dr. Elvis Ntemfa, who is our main guest of today's edition. Doctor, you were talking earlier on the tips of applying for a scholarship. The first thing I want to find out is, how do you sort out where you want to study? Because I know there are thousands. For instance, we have something like Chevening Scholarship. They offer more than 1,500 positions for scholars a year. We have the Fulbright. I mean, there are a lot of them out there. When you type on the internet at international scholarship, there is a lot that comes. How do you make the difference of where exactly you can get what you want when it comes to scholarships?
Okay, I think the first thing is knowing what you want to study. I'll give you an example. When I was working as a medical doctor, after finishing my medical studies, part of my plans was to specialize and become an infectious disease physician. But I realized that it's not really what I want, because it's not only to treat the patients, but to make their lives better. And I understood that one of the ways to do that is through operational research. That is when it occurred to me that I can do a master's, which will give me the ability to become a researcher. And it was based on that I started looking for which are the schools which can be recommended, which have the good reputation of training people. So I went online and based on what I wanted, I was looking at the different universities that offer the course. And then even when I found the course, I went online to check to see some of the people who have studied that same master's, whether they've had any impact in the world anywhere. And that is what encouraged me to actually choose that particular master's. And it oriented me to which school could I get the best training. And then from there, I applied to the school, and applying to the school, you already start looking for which scholarships are offered in this school.
In the school.
Yeah, because most of the time, they know that for people coming from resource limited settings, many people cannot afford out of pocket. So in the
Right,
same
right.
schools, in their websites, they tell you about which scholarships you could have to study the particular course you want to do in the school. And also, one thing that people don't know is that in most of those universities, they have a whole section to advise students on how to get along the scholarship process.
And there is also something about scholarship. We know some of them are partially funded,
Yeah.
fully funded. Sometimes, which one did you go for? Let me ask first.
Well, I went for a full tuition because I couldn't afford to pay the other portion, even if it was a partial scholarship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe this is not the question I want to ask you. It's not about your personal experience, but your take on it. We know of scholarships that they'll tell you send your tuition fee. Maybe after you've succeeded, they'll tell you send your tuition fee before you come. Would you advise somebody personally to
Well,
pay for fees before? Because I've heard of cases that people pay and actually it entered into the wrong hands.
so I think it's a very, very important component of the international studies package, because even in the different countries where people go to do postgraduate studies,
Yeah.
universities are always classified, and there are the ones that are considered as highly trusted universities, such that if you are admitted in such a university and you have a scholarship, all they need is a scholarship letter-headed and signed by the competent person. After they get that letter, when they confirm that this letter comes from the awarding body, you don't have any other thing to do
So it's
at your
important
level.
to have all these details when you're going in for such scholarship.
Yeah.
It's important. Okay, we were at the level of what prompted you, like the idea, how did it come about? Now, one thing I know for sure, because I've tried out scholarships before,
Yeah.
not been very successful though, it's the process, the writing. I mean, there are a lot of ACs. Many people will tell you, I can't apply for Chevening scholarship because the process is quite daunting. Do you see it as such?
Okay. I will still come back to
Because you had 2 scholarships. I think if you found it daunting, doctor, I don't think that you are going to apply for one and then you keep applying. I mean, what's that magic? What's that trick?
Yes, I will still come back to what I said, that if you know what you want, and then if you know where you want to go to, you define where you are, the process in between, you don't find it very daunting. I wouldn't pretend that it's a very simple process.
No, it's not.
But you need to invest your time, your energy,
Right.
and you should always be motivated by
What you
why
want to
why
achieve.
you want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even at the end of the day, even when you get the scholarship, the master's process or the PhD
Still not
process is
easy.
still not easy. So I still agree with the person who says nothing good comes easy.
Is there something particular you need to prove when you're applying for this scholarship? Is there a particular thing people are looking for? Or maybe if I better rephrase the question, what did you write? What did you use to convince the persons to grant you the scholarship? Because you had to. I mean, that's very.
In every scholarship, there is a committee that always reads the motivation letter, because they don't know you, they have never met you before.
Right.
They're just looking at
the paper
everything
in front
you're talking about yourself on paper. And these people, they are so experienced in their job to the extent that they know, they can read a motivation letter and know when it's coming from somebody who has
The passion.
yes, who knows where he is going to. Because I've found situations where somebody would tell you, can you advise me on how to write a motivation letter? There is actually no magic.
style, it's
There's
your
no style.
motivation.
It's just an expression of what you want to do, and when this is driven from the inner core, it just comes out. And it's always
It
very
just
simple.
flows.
At times it's just like one page.
There are still a lot of things that we have to discuss with the doctor, especially when it comes to his personal experience and the opportunities that are out there for medical students. But before we come back to the set, let's have this transition of one of our major partners of the program, Global Bush, which is a travel and tourism agency found here in Bonamoussa de Douala. We'll be right back.
Looking for the best holiday? Well, look no further. Global Bush Travel and Tourism Agency offers unique tour experiences to the most exciting locations in Cameroon. The services include visa processing, flight reservation, ticket sales, as well as tour services. Global Bush Travel and Tourism Agency works in collaboration with several hotels across Cameroon and Africa, as well as major airlines such as Ethiopian Airlines, South African Airlines, Air France, Turkish Airlines, just to name a few. Their long-standing experience with local hotels, snacks, restaurants, and resorts mean you can enjoy excellent services at great discounts. Global Bush's smart, kind, and welcoming staff are always ready to give you the best value for your money. With more than 10 years in the tourism industry, their tour guides and personnel not only master the trade, but know exactly when and how to give you the best of business experience. Their broad client base of high-profile individuals, businessmen, and diplomatic missions are a testament to their great services. To find out more about Global Bush, please visit our website at www.globalbushtravelandtourismagency.com. Global Bush Travel and Tourism Agency, your gateway to Africa.
If you are just joining us, it's the program Bush Fola on Travel TV channel, and I'm still with my one and only guest for today, Dr. Elvis. Doctor, I still once more want to thank you very much for making our time. I know how hectic the schedule of a medical doctor is, but thank you. And I want you to impact medical students. We know that medicine is a field of studies which is more of practicals and less of theory. I mean, you need the theories, but it's about saving life, and we cannot play with such things. And now it's important, you cannot go out treating persons when you don't have the knowledge and the appropriate skills needed.
Yeah.
People are always on the hunt for this knowledge, and there are so many medical students out there who want to do their best. I mean, they need people like you and others who have gone to study to impact them, and so that they can also join you in the fight of making global public health worth the while. So tell us, you have been out there, what are the opportunities for medical students abroad, especially those international scholarships such as which you have benefited from?
Okay, the medical profession on its own is a very demanding job, and you either belong to those who are at the position where today you're told what to do and tomorrow it changes, or you belong to the group of the people who actually work hard to make sure that they bring these changes. In Cameroon today, we have this notion that when you go to medical school, when you're done, you either stay a general practitioner or you become a specialist and you practice. But there is this other component which has to do with operational research, because medicine is a context-specific thing. It's very difficult for somebody to study medicine, for example, in Russia, and then come to Cameroon the next day and start practicing the same way like somebody who studied medicine in Cameroon, because during the training you actually get to meet the patients. It's this contact with the patient that gives you the experience. So it means that medicine in a whole has to be contextualized. Right. And in this contextualization process, we also need to contribute a lot in making it suitable to our context. So personally, I chose the path of those who need to make that difference, and that's why I chose the career path of becoming a researcher. You'll find a lot of masters public health, and when you look at them, one of the first eligibility criteria for the scholarships is that you should come from a low-income country, and most of the countries in Africa are considered low-income countries.
So Cameroonians have a lot of opportunities.
Cameroonians have a lot of opportunities. They just need to know what they want, and then they go looking for it.
All right, Doctor, I know that we are talking about international scholarship, and it's way beyond just the application process. I want us to discuss on how it functions when you get there, how you're welcomed, how you're treated. I want a little bit of that ambience.
Okay.
But before we discuss these issues, let's have a break and hear what Cameroonians and other Africans have to say about international scholarship.
Pour le moment, j'ai un ami qui travaille. Il est à l'extérieur. Il a eu son bourse là-bas. Il est en train de travailler. Il est en train de fréquenter. Mais il est en train de dire qu'il va revenir ici. Mais il n'est pas sûr s'il va revenir ici travailler. C'est pour ça que tu vois tous les enfants, quand ils préfèrent aller à l'extérieur. Parce qu'on n'est pas sûr au Cameroun qu'on doit trouver le travail dans notre pays.
Oui, c'est bien possible d'aller à l'étranger avec une bourse, suivre sa formation et revenir travailler sur le territoire national. Mais nous connaissons le cadre dans lequel on évolue, précisément celui du Cameroun, qui ne donne pas l'opportunité aux employés, aux salariés de se mouvoir et de se satisfaire dans ce qu'ils ont à faire. Et nous connaissons la guerre ethnique qui se passe au pays. Ça fait que parfois ce n'est pas celui qui mérite qui est au poste qu'il faut.
Si j'obtiens une bourse à l'extérieur et que j'ai besoin d'un travail, je ne peux pas revenir ici là pour travailler parce que non seulement ici on ne nous encourage pas à travailler et il y a trop de tribalisme. Il y a certains métiers que si tu n'es pas de la même tribu, il faut que tu donnes de l'argent pour qu'on t'inclue dans la société.
Une fois que nous nous rendons à l'extérieur pour poursuivre ces études, il est difficile pour nous de rentrer dans le pays à cause des conditions de vie très difficiles dans notre pays aujourd'hui. Vous avez la crise qui sévit, la rareté de l'emploi, l'abondance des maladies, la vie chère. On préfère, une fois qu'on a obtenu ces bourses, aller en Europe ou dans un autre pays pour continuer, où les conditions sont de plus en plus favorables, où les conditions sont de plus en plus nécessaires. Moi, voilà ce que je peux dire. Sinon, il est possible d'avoir justement des bourses dans les universités. Les universités délivrent ces bourses. Mais la plupart des gens qui s'en vont ne reviennent plus à cause de la vie difficile dans le pays.
Pour ma part, puisque tant bien de fois que nous avions peut-être cette bourse ici dans notre pays, ça ne nous sert vraiment à rien. C'est ça alors qui nous encourage à pouvoir quitter notre pays et aller ailleurs pour investir cette bourse-là. Peut-être on ne sait jamais, puisque nous pouvons arriver là-bas, il y aura autre chose à faire. Puisque avec cette bourse dans notre pays, on ne peut vraiment rien faire, on ne peut rien faire.
Déjà, les conditions de l'obtention de cette bourse ne nous favorisent pas de revenir ici au pays. Comment est-ce qu'on fait pour obtenir cette bourse? À l'époque, l'État déboursait les moyens pour favoriser l'obtention de ces bourses, mais de nos jours, on se bat de nous-mêmes, ce qui fait que quand on part, on n'a plus envie de revenir. Donc, je vais dire que ce sont les conditions du pays, les conditions dans lesquelles nous vivons, qui font en sorte que quand on part, on n'a plus envie de revenir ici au pays.
So, Doctor, when you were, please remind us of the two scholarships that you had, please.
Well, I did my master's in the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in the UK, and I did my PhD in Paris Descartes University in France. Yeah.
Away from the very serious issues, I want to find out, when you got there for the first time, how did you see the other international students?
Okay, the first thing I would say is that when I went for my master's, that was the first time I was going to live overseas. The first thing which is very, very apparent is that there is a cultural shock.
What do you mean by
That's
that?
for sure. Like you get to a place where you need to find your way because everybody is quite busy, everybody's running up and down. It's very difficult for somebody to actually hold your hand and say, this is how you have to do it, this is how you have to do it.
When your scholarship, you were done with your scholarship, I mean, was the immigration already at your doors, like, you came here for scholarship, get going, doctor?
Well, actually, I would say that most of the time when you're having your residence permit for a master's, for example, my experience in the UK was I had +6 months. But my mindset was, I am going to study this, and when I'm done, I'm coming back home. So the last day of lectures was the 16th of September, and on the 18th of September, I was in the next flight coming back home. Yeah.
I don't think every Cameroonian want to be like you.
Well,
Doctor,
I think.
Did you find time to catch some fun? I mean, with 2 days, did you go snapping at the London Bridge?
That was part of the whole master's process. Yeah, because many people were coming there for the first time, and it was at the same time very tedious work and an opportunity to do catch fun.
So what are some of the exciting things you did back there?
Well, like doing a boat trip on the Thames on the Thames, and then going to climb on Athos, climbing the mountain in Edinburgh. Yeah, and visiting the British Channel, I mean, among other things.
We are coming to the end of the program, but before we go, Doctor, a quick one. Tell us, what can you advise? Cameroon and Africa as a whole has its majority of its population at the youthful age. And we are the ones who want the scholarship, we want the big jobs, we want the money, we want to explore in our career, want to be the best. I mean, with all the big dreams, what can you tell those who are wishing to get international scholarship in general, and then we go particular to medical students?
My advice to young Cameroonians and young medical students is that if you plan that in your career you wish to have a scholarship in the future, you start building it now by building a good academic track record, building a good professional record. Even though you think nobody is seeing what you're doing, there are people among your bosses who are watching from a distance and who can actually take the responsibility of apposing their signature on a letter, on a recommendation letter to send overseas for you to get a scholarship.
It's on this note that I will say thank you very much, Dr. Elvis Temfa, for being our guest on today's edition of the program Bush Fola. You can find us on all social media handles, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on our website. It is www.tvtravelchannel.com. Thank you very much for being with us. Next time, it's another beautiful time with you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you too.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share and click on the bell icon to get notification on our latest updates.